You ask God, what's happening? You're in the process of ascension. It requires you to be in body, in corporeality. So you could go back to your last life. It's way more prolific than what you think. It's not just on Earth, and you're going back to ground zero, the war between fallen angels and your good angels, because no, the war for all time, the end of the false evil darkness, permanently, it will start on Earth. Said, now, the last thing before you agree to this in absoluteness, realize.
Wow. Welcome to the New Earth Eden podcast. I'm Eden Cause, and today we are welcoming Gene Decode. First question, how are you today? Let's go.
I'm doing really good, Eden. How about yourself?
I am very good. All right, we had a little bit of a technical issue because usually Gene's logo shows and it's not showing, but we're just going to roll with it anyway. And Gene, I've got to tell you before I read your bio, and what I love about your work is, to me, you're one of the few that really touches on the metaphysical, the spiritual, and you can translate that into what is going on in the world, into current events. You contain so much knowledge. So I really appreciate that today and delivering that to the audience. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
For a second.
Yeah.
Who is Gene Decode? Gene is a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Navy submarine fleet. He is 45 plus years martial artist instructor, so a sensei, as well as a lifelong student and practitioner of naturopathic medicine. I will take a breath. He has dedicated most of his life to the investigation and research of information pertaining to all things spiritual, health, physical, mental, and emotional, social, political, and metaphysical. He was born with skilled remote viewing and psychic abilities that have steered his life. In August of 1990, Gene had an epiphany in which he suddenly realized the existence and massive influence of the satanic deep cabal, state cabal. In a death experience in August of 1992, where he died for 30 minutes, and I want to ask some questions about that. He met God, and after taking a holy covenant, God allowed him to return to be of service to humanity, the earth, and God's creation. Throughout Gene's life, he has had many events that have changed his life and his course. Looking back, Gene now sees this as the hand of God steering his life. The series of events led him to embark on a continuing path of discovery and his lifelong quest to attain the absolute truth. And I'm going to say that again with emphasis, absolute truth in all things, through decoding the lives that we've been conditioned to believe. Through the course of many interviews and decodes, he has shared with the world what he has given, well, his name now, Gene Decode. What do you think, as we are going through this huge evolution and this huge human ascension, what do you think the new Earth is going to be like? How soon before we get there? Is there an ending point? Yeah, can you start with that to begin with?
So you mean 4D or 5D or
Ah,
3D?
5D and beyond.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I do visit there. It's
Yeah, you're already there, and you're you're
yeah,
you're
I'm
18
already
right
at
now.
5D, so I can visit there. I'm just kind of hanging out down here for a while, while things get sorted out and helping those who can be helped, and getting the information about necessary requirements to be able to ascend. As in the 17th letter of the alphabet board said, the last thing it ever had on the board was ascension. And so it also talked about the wars for your DNA. And so through our DNA and through our spiritual questing and understanding of ourselves and everything else that's been involved for so long, a person can achieve ascension in this lifetime. Many people can achieve it. Usually, yeah, people do it in a lifetime, and during time of Christ, of course, he ascended, and others have as well. Since then, Buddha and other people like that. You've had masters that do ascension, but it's not a massive event, except for with the Mayan civilization, where about 98% of the Mayan civilization ascended in one day. And that's why when you go to that area of the South America and Central America and try to find bones, which, in the environment they're in, it's very easy to have those left behind and found, but there's almost nothing to be found. They just said, history says they walked out of their huge cities all in one day. They just all decided to walk out. We're done with this. We're not doing this anymore. And went out in the jungle and just became, individuals roaming around the jungle, I guess, totally ridiculous. They ascended. And so, in that situation we are in now is very similar, except even more vast. Not just one civilization in one place on Earth, but the entire human populace is now going through an event that will cause an ascension. And so, when that event hits, the entire human race will have the energy coming from the sun that will set ascension in, depending on the level of where a person's at. And so, for 5D Earth, most people will go to 4D and 3D. Some will go to 5, some will go beyond that and leave corporeality entirely into the higher levels of heavens of existence. But I'm going to hang out in 5 for a while, so it's interesting. I see some people saying they're seeing some of these things here. You're not seeing them here. For example, they said they saw this thing that looked like a giant jellyfish or a man of war floating in the sky, about 6 feet long, not in the ocean, not in water, floating in the sky, but it was transparent and translucent, and it glowed and had colors rippling on it. That's what I've come to call an Andromeda, because they're in the Andromeda galaxy originally is where they're from, but they're here on 5D Earth. They're very gentle beings. They don't sting like man of war. I got hit by a man of war when I was body surfing in California when I was in A school, and oh my gosh, that hurt. The tentacles wrapped around me, and I was covered from my waist down with stings. I was like, ah! But the Andromedas are really beautiful. And then you have another flying, I'm not sure, I called them butterfly birds. Oh. They're kind of like a cross between a butterfly and a bird. They're really beautiful, but the wings are variant colored, and, kind of a cross between that, more towards the bird, but still not like any bird you've seen on Earth. So lots and lots of fruits and things that I don't know what they are. They taste fantastic. Kind of like when I was in Puerto Rico and I go up in the rainforest and I find things like, there's a thing in the vine that was growing around a tree that was kind of a cross between a cherry, a strawberry. I'm already at 5D, so I can visit there. I'm just kind of hanging out down here for a while. And something else. I don't need a lychee maybe, or as they say in the Philippines, lansunas. And so I got back and asked somebody, ate some. It was one of the most delicious fruit I've ever eaten. I got back and asked somebody what it was. I never even heard of such a thing, So maybe I was on 5D even back then in the 90s. So it's like I've often had situations where that is, and people are continuing to have that. A lot of people look up and see the sun. If you remember, from those who can remember, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the sun was yellow. Well, for me and many people now, it's white. And so that's the 5D sun. And I actually have a picture I took when I climbed a volcano in Bali. From the top of the volcano, we got sunrise, my wife and I, so we went up to the upper cone and past the steaming vents and stuff. It was really nice, and nobody else was moving, because the guide said when the sun's up, you can go up there so you can see, because it's a little narrow. You don't want to fall into the vents. So we went up there, nobody else was there, and we're looking down at everybody looking, and then she took a picture with her iPhone, and I look at the picture and I go, oh, for them, it's not sunrise. It's just now, not when we saw it. So our sun was way high in the sky, and their sun was just coming up over the ocean. And I'm like, that's interesting. And it was yellow. And then we had our white sun. So it's a little bit different, and when it rose. And so, that's a lot of what, as what person heads into ascension, and things will change. So the ascension event itself depends on where a person's at and what vibration is they're at. And there's also descension. For those that are very dark of heart and spirit, or have actually sold their souls, they will descend to 30, 4, or 5D or worse, negative. And so that descension will occur so the event, the 3-day event that will be coming, for them, it'll be a nightmare. It'll be an absolute horrific nightmare in which everything they've ever done to anybody, they'll feel it as if it's done to themselves. All the evil and all the stuff they've done and pouring at them, demonics coming at them, and all kinds of nasty creatures coming at them. And then they go to the good part, the Armageddon line. And then it is really horrific. But those go through ascension, you may have a few things that you face that were dark that you left behind.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you've been working on yourself, meditating and praying and trying to be good and compassionate and forgive those and bless those that did things to you without judgment anymore. And it's so liberating when you do that, you let somebody go and you say, well, I learned a lot of things from that person, the time you were upset and, they're doing this stuff to you and but now I learned so much, I learned what to say, what not to say, it's like, Jung said, be careful who you say what to. There's only a very small amount of people you want to say certain things to that are private about yourself. I learned that. I learned who to trust. Be careful who you trust, he said, at any degree. So in business or in anything, So that's continuing. It's kind of like what you see in the deep state with the Epstein files. They have blackmail on everybody. Some of it's fake, was put into people's computers. They can do that. And so that's the nature of what we're going to be experiencing. So back to you, Eden.
Well, in terms of dissension, I've heard from others that everybody at some point will ascend, but the time frames are different. Is that possible when people really step into, I mean, it sounds like what you're describing, all the pictures that we've seen of hell. Is there hope?
So, for those that are already at 5D, when the event occurs, they'll just be there permanently.
Yeah.
They won't be here anymore. And for those that are going to go through the event people have gone, like I said, through it before and already gone through 5D and beyond.
Yeah.
Christ, of course, way beyond. And Buddha and things like that have gone through the ascension long before. But this event, because the entire energy field of the earth changes,
okay,
no one will be left behind in a sense.
Okay.
You will ascend or descend or something.
I understand you.
Yeah, if you have no soul, you'll be probably eradicated because as you go into the spirit leaves the body for the ascension and then goes into a 4D or 5D body. Yeah, but you have to have a soul to do that. Your spirit is contained in the soul during transition like that. So if you don't have a soul, it's the last container. You have essentially 7 parts, like the sacredness of God, we're created in 7 parts of who we are. We have an etheric body, which is what the med beds reach in and copy the etheric body, which is first and second density. And then you have the 3D body. Then you have the astral body, the emotional body. Then you have the causal or the karmic body or whatever you want to call it body. And that's at 4D. And that's dealing with emotions and, getting your emotions controlled and not getting overwhelmed and getting all excited all the time. And so that's the 4D body. Then you have the 5D body. Then you have the soul body, the mental body. I'm sorry, that was 4D. Let's see, 3D, 4D is astral, 5D is the learning body. 6 is the mental body, and then the 7th is the soul body. And so when you die or you transition to a higher density, you leave all the other bodies until you go into the next density or beyond and leave corporeality entirely. Well, the problem is that what's harboring you during that movement is the soul. I mean, it's not a problem unless you've sold it or you don't have one. So
Right.
in that case, you don't have one. Your spirit spreads out across eternity because it's like a glass with a material in the glass. You pour it into a glass that's gone. You just pour it on the table. It just spreads out. And so that's the event that some people will be experiencing because a lot of the elites, the Hollywood stars, etc. We know about that. They've sold their soul so they can get fame or power or wealth or whatever.
Yeah.
And even just through the works you do, you can wind up destroying the soul through like the things we see in Epstein files with children. That destroys the soul. Consuming young people and doing things to young people consumes the soul, along with the black magic and sorcery and blood magic they do. That bringing up with sigils and all kinds of things, demonics that consume the soul. And so in that case, the person would be gone. So when they die, the way they've been reincarnating is they are mostly shapeshifters. So they just go into their regular form and then possess another human-like body or shapeshift into the next person that's supposed to be the next royalty in line, like the Queen or King Charles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that works. They are very ancient beings. They're not, being born and coming back and being born. They wait for a vessel to mature, and then they take over that vessel and shapeshift into that vessel. So, or they will manifest as a young person and shapeshift as they get older. So it depends on how they want to do that and what's necessary depending on the situation. So, the ascension event in their case, um, they won't be able to withstand what the Earth's going through for very long on the Armageddon line.
Yeah.
It's only going to last about 11 to 14 years for them at the most because the energy, the Earth, even though that's a negative field for a negative Earth, it's on the side of the Milky Way that's positively oriented. It's like you're an electromagnetic field. You have on one side the negative, you have on the other side the positive. Well, if you're a negative particle on the positive, a huge vibrating thing like a planet on the negative charge, but on the positive side, it tends to do a suppression wave. So it suppresses everything down until it loses coherency. So it's like in the movie Interstellar, where all the plants were failing and then people were dying off and everything. So then that Earth becomes a moon because it's barren of life. The only life it has is crystals and those things, and, rocks and minerals because that's first density. So the plants, the animals, all of that stuff on there for that Earth will be gone. And the moon here, what I'm being, advised is that this moon, which I knew is artificial, will be removed. So this Earth will become the moon for New Earth.
Whoa. Okay. Gee, I've got to tell you, I feel like I know a lot, but then, some things that I've listened to with you and you being on the show, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still infantile in terms of my knowledge. Yeah, because I also was thinking that the new earth, like, very heart-centered, um, I guess thinking more on human terms, not so much in terms of like a new galactic, there would be more connection there. Yet you've broadened my perception of it. So that is really wonderful. And do you like you're here in 5D, but are you eighth dimension? Is that correct?
I'm essentially functioning at that. When I died, I
Okay.
was gifted by God to 8D
Okay.
for all my gifts and psychic abilities and things
Yeah.
that I needed to do for my job I was going to have that I was, you know, gifted from birth. The remote viewing, the
Yeah.
big thing, that's actually not my main thing.
Yeah.
um, what my job will be, which I've never said what before, so this is a premiere,
Okay.
is
Beautiful.
I'm gifted with time, the ability to, everybody can do this, but they just don't know they can. I've
Yeah.
always known. And I've always been gifted at, like they say, bending space and time.
Hmm.
So I'm adept at time. So I can, like you see in the Adjustment Bureau, I can freeze time and move through people. I did it one time and I'm like, what in the world? See a waiter in an open air restaurant out in a, patio, and the water's hanging in the air as he's pouring the glass for the water glass. I'm like, and everybody's not moving. I'm like, what did I just do? What's
Wow.
happening? I'm like,
Wow.
as a little kid, that's a little odd.
Yeah.
You don't know what you did. And then I've also had in my martial arts, when my first special force instructor left corporeality, we went to his grave this was in Hawaii. We went over to the Kaneohe side and to the cemetery over there. And we did, my top student, and he did all the katas and the forms, the three basic forms I know. And then I did all the katas in those forms, plus all my Tai Chi and Qigong forms. That normally takes about 6 hours. And we started at about 4, and around 5:30, we were done. And he was looking because he can't go as far as I was. He was watching me do the other forms. He's done that before. And we got done. He goes, I don't understand how we and you just did all the forms. I know and in an hour and a half. But I've been looking at the people at that other gravesite, and they don't seem to be moving very fast. They look like starfish, they're barely moving. You look at, they're not moving. You look back, okay, they've moved a little in the last 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like hummingbirds. Their sense of time is dilated 12 to 1 to ours. So we kind of look like a starfish to them. We're hardly moving. And a starfish, same thing for us. That's a 12 to 1 time dilation. And people time dilate or compress time all the time. So it's like, the saying of watching paint dry. It's like, is this paint ever going to dry? Oh, my word. Because I was trying to match a spot on a wall in Puerto Rico, touching up somebody's house, and it was white, but I didn't know there's like 4,000 colors of white. So I paint it. No, that's the wrong shade of white. So I add a little something. I'm waiting for it to dry. I'm like, oh, my word is paint. It should be drying. It's 85 degrees out here in the sun. I know it's humid, but come on. And
Yeah.
so it's like you're waiting at a bus stop, or you're waiting for in front of a store for your spouse or your friend to pick you up, and you're like, you're going through your phone, or in my case, reading a book, and I look down at I read a chapter and look up. I go, where are they? I go, it's been like 15 minutes. I look at my, watch, because I didn't carry a phone. I don't carry a phone very often. And it's not 15 minutes. It's like 1 minute. I can't read a chapter in 1 minute.
Yeah.
I know I look back through the chapter. Yeah, I read all this. Okay, well, I'll just keep reading until they get here. So I read the book. I get done, which should take me a couple hours. I go, oh, come on. I look at my phone, my watch again, and it's another 15 minutes. And I'm like, now it is 15 minutes. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So when you're waiting, you're actually speeding up your mind. And in the case of time, in comparison, the rest of the planet around you looks like it's slowing down for you. Everything's getting slower, like my student and I in the cemetery in Kaneohe. So the other option is that, like, you're at a party and you're having such a good time with your friends, and you're, oh yeah, 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 oh yeah, that's true, oh yeah, yeah, and this, and and then the host comes and goes, you guys got to wrap it up and take it home or take it somewhere else,
Yeah.
because we need to get to bed and clean up. So it's late, it's getting late, and you all look at each other. Late? We've been here like what, an hour and a half, maybe 2. We got here at 7. You said the party goes to 11. It would be 9. The host goes, no, it's 11:30.
Oof.
What? People pull out their phones. It is 11:30. How'd that happen? So when you're having a good time, now you're so focused on the time.
Yeah.
You're not focused on the time. You're focused on what's going on. That time starts to dilate out, and everybody would see you guys hardly moving, or excuse me, actually like blurring out. You'd be getting faster and faster and faster, but they wouldn't really, I don't know what they'd be seeing, but you're seeing time going different. And so that's the time thing. And then the other thing I've done several times on backpacks, mostly, um, one with a student of mine in the Wymanooch Wilderness area, which is the largest wilderness area in the United States. It's up in Colorado. It is huge. And we're going through it, pouring rain, wearing our Gore-Tex rain gear and, hiking boots and our internal frame backpacks, and it's beautiful. You got towering peaks on each side of us. We're going up along Vestal Creek, and came out into a huge meadow. And as we're about halfway through the meadow, and this, my student says, I'm concerned about tonight, because he had never been on a backpack. I go, why? He goes, because, of bears. I said, well, we'll tree our food between two trees hanging in the air, and you don't sleep with it, and you don't eat where you sleep. But black bears really aren't a big deal anyway, as long as the men mark the campground, the campsite, about 10 feet circle around you. And he goes, no, grizzlies. They haven't been grizzlies here for, I don't know, since about the Civil War. He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, in the Civil War days, they came out after the end of the Civil War, and they go to, these rich Southerners were getting displaced by what they call the carpetbaggers coming in. And so they would sell off all their properties, and they would go out west to a trading post and get all brand new gear and horses and mules and all of that, and go up here and hunt bear. And about that time, we're about now halfway through the meadow, and it suddenly, was not raining. It was just, the ground was wet, and the clouds were going up the mountain now instead of coming down. We were in the clouds before. It was just instantly they're going up the mountain. And behind us, I noticed two guys on their horses with a mule and another horse with their gear. And as they closed in, I could see they had gray hats, and you could smell the oil in the rain slickers were still brand new. You could smell the tanning in the powder kegs. You could smell the powder in the powder kegs. I mean, all their gear, the Civil War rifles were brand spanking new. Everything, I mean, absolutely new, like a trading post. Like I said, they just gone to a trading post and bought everything to come up to hunt bear. And they came up behind us, and, my wife is Asian. So, she looks Native American to them, and she has long hair, which is typical for Asian or Native American, braided all the way down to her waist. And so they said, your guide? I said, yeah, basically helps along with that, yeah. And they said, really interesting gear. Never seen the like. What kind of trading post you get? Oh, it's a place online, Oh, on the line of the trail somewhere?
Right.
I just said, never mind. Wrong way to say that, And so then they go, have you seen any bear? And I looked down on the trail in front of me, and I said, track right there. That's a grizzly track right there. You see, it looks like it's 14 feet, and it's filling in with water. So the bear's got to be just up in the trees ahead. Oh, thanks. They start getting their guns out and, heading on, gallop off. And they go, thanks for the advice. See ya. Have a good one. Happy hunting. And they disappear into the trees. My student goes, that's a very amazing Civil War reenactment. I go, you go ahead with all the money of the Rothschilds and see if you can buy all that equipment brand spanking new. Yeah. I mean, you can get it new looking, but you're not going to smell the tanning and the oil in the rain slicker and all of that stuff. He goes, what do you mean us? I said, one of two things just happened. I pulled them into our time, but more likely because there was bear track, I pulled us into their time by so visualizing to you what was that time frame. I pulled us into that time frame. Mm-hmm. And as he said what just happened, and I started saying that, we were suddenly in pouring rain again. And he goes, what just happened? I go, we're back in our time. Because you don't suddenly not be in the rain and the clouds are way up on the side of the mountain going up, and now we're back in the clouds instantly. So that's a time adept. And that's my main gifting, is to people don't know, but there's times even on Earth or any planet where certain parts of a planet will get out of sync with other areas. And time
Okay.
adapts, like you see an adjustment bureau, will come in and freeze things and adjust time.
Okay.
And yep, and even planets can get out of whack. So you have time adepts that do that on a galactic scale, planetary, solar scale, etc. And so it depends once you go beyond corporeality, what your gifting is. So when I did my death experience, I was already gifted out. And so, when I was with him, I already had all that happen. So I was with him and I'm talking and he's like, how did you do that? And just a gift I got. So he's like, that was weird.
Wow. So that is going to be something you're going to start doing or that you're already doing, just pulling these, making time adjustments and pulling things. I'm not using the
Mhm.
correct wording, but pulling things in place and in harmony.
Yes. And, many people can do it.
Yeah.
Yep. And so Tesla, actually, when he left here,
Mhm.
he left behind what's called a ghost. That old man was not him. That's just his body just kind of going along without him. And he moved, it's kind of a ghost body. It's not his real body. And so it's just something he kind of manifests as you leave. And so he left here because he wanted to defeat the deep state. He wanted to bring free energy and all this technology, and J.P. Morgan and all these people wouldn't let him. So he said, okay, then I'll make it happen in the right time at the right place when this human race is ready. And that'll be during the time that it's going to ascend, because he knew all about time, frequency, and vibration. And he knew this time would be coming now. So he went to another timeline, took himself and pulled, jumped timelines, and started making adjustments and came into ours as several couple different people, one being Edward Snowden. Yeah. So
Nice.
several different people he is now, because he did it more than one time. And then the time, to more than one timeline, and he knew the timelines would all merge as they have now, because during this upcoming ascension event, you only have two timelines going through ascension, which is descension line and the ascension line. And so the deep state was trying to negate the ascension line. You can't do that. It's like getting a monopolar magnet or a battery with only a negative pull and no positive. It doesn't happen. That doesn't occur in nature. So you will always have that. And so what they wound up doing, the more things they threw to make it so that they would not lose control of humanity, the more it made it absolute. The more people would be going there. So they got in a couple experts because they're using their looking glass to, project looking glass to look at the future, and they're seeing, less and less probability they're going to get their new world order. Oh no. So they do this. And now, nope. Now it's more probable. Nope. Now it's more probable. Oh no. And not only that, if we do get ours, it's starting to fade out too. It's getting less and less time it'll survive. So, so they brought in an expert. He ran the algorithms. Kerry Cassidy covered this with the two experts. They talked about it. And they said, nope, that's what's happening. And if you don't get it done by 2012, not going to happen at all. Once 2012 goes, what is what is, and you can't change it at all. Nothing will stop what's coming, as the 17 board said. So that's now where they are and where we are. So now with the trip of King Charles, if people aren't understanding what just happened, is the first wow, it's a first in the history of this country, probably the world, in at least, I don't know, probably the world, because I've been around here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he abdicated as king, and he turned it over to Trump. And so he went to certain areas, like the 911 Memorial and others. To do that, you have to go to certain areas to do certain ceremonies and words, and that's done. And then Trump, they went to the bees, like the beekeeper in the movie. The beekeeper is the person that, if the leader of the country isn't doing good for the hive, or in this case for the people, which of course the deep state, they only do it for the queen and the king and the royalty, which is not what a colony is about. They destroy or take out the beekeeper, takes out the queen, like in the movie, and are the king. And so the king has been taken out, and Trump is the king. And so he went to the beehive and he held a bee in his hand and showed the bee and said, okay. And then at the dinner, they had like a bee kind of meal, with beehive kind of thing looking and all that stuff. After they'd gone to all the locations, which gives the United States sovereignty and destroys the Admiralty law and the straw man for all the people of the United States. They are now sovereign. And we are now a sovereign country, which means now, besides being the king of the British Empire, which is no longer the British Empire, it's, I guess you call it the Whitish Empire or the White Hattish Empire or the Trumpish Empire, or
Okay.
like the Straits of Trump and the American, the Gulf of America or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
The American Empire. I don't think Trump would want that in the White Hats, but so that's now gone. The corporation is now under Trump. That happened way back with the Queen when he went to England back in his first term and was waved in front of him by the Queen, reviewed the troops, went to Westminster Abbey, signed the ledger for the Crown Corporation, which means he's in charge of the Crown Corporation. That's why when he went to England, he didn't stay where most people stay. He stayed where only royalty goes. Which said, "You're royalty. We just need to do the honors and the ceremony." So King Charles was summoned. The guy who's playing King Charles, because King Charles has actually died from Kuru. He was summoned, and they went through the motions to turn over. And so the straw men and all that other stuff is now gone, and the people of America are sovereign. And that's why we're going back to all of the constitutional ways of the United States, which is under the Constitution, or not under, but by the Constitution of these United States for America, not the Constitution of the United States, all in caps. This is U and S are the only thing in caps in that. And so what that means is that you will not have the income tax. It was never ratified in the first place. It appeared to be ratified, is what they said. That's not the same thing as ratified. And that's why he's putting in the tariffs, which is how the country survived without the income tax, and did so well. Teddy Roosevelt started making national parks and didn't know what to do with all the money. And the same thing goes, is you're going to have so much money you won't know what to do with it. Well, yeah, because if you look at our straw man, if you're 50 years old, your straw man's $1 billion. It's traded on the stock market, and on the real stock market, not the common market for the common people, but the blue chip stock market. That they separated the stock markets during the stock market crash back in 1929. They changed it over, so we play monopoly stock. Common people play monopoly stock. It's all fake. That's why they can make the numbers all go to 666 or 17, 17, 17 back in the day. Yeah, with Trump first term. So it's like, because it's not real. And so now we're back into a situation where we're going back to the Constitution itself, where the Fed has now been rolled under, and Trump is the head of the Fed, and it's been rolled under the Treasury. As per Article 1, Section 8, all money shall be done through act of Congress, and coined was originally the term, are by weights and measures. So I guess you could go around the coin part to some degree there, by the U.S. Treasuries. So, when I first used to tell people about this stuff in 1990, the money's not real. That's fake money. And I showed them a $100 bill I had from 1933. It said, "This note is redeemable in lawful currency," on the $100 bill. I said, if it says it's redeemable in lawful currency, it's not lawful currency. It's counterfeit. It means you can take this and redeem it for a real $100 bill, that then you can go to the U.S. Treasury and ask for that amount of gold. And I showed a silver certificate under President Kennedy. See, this is a silver certificate, and this can be redeemed in silver. And that's how our money's supposed to be. And the Federal Reserve is not federal, and it's not a reserve of anything except the gold they stole from us, you know, like they showed in the movie Die Hard. And so, this is all where we've been headed and all this. So we're in amazing times. It's all part of the ascension where the people are in control of themselves, and the government works for the people and they control it, not the other way around, because that's not about ascension. It's all lining up with ascension. So, it for appearances, it's hard to, people aren't paying attention to discern the difference. So they see us, going into Venezuela and taking out Maduro, and going into Iran and bombing the bejeebers out of Iran. It's the same thing. It's just not the same thing. They didn't take out the entire government of Venezuela. In the case of Iran, because the mullahs won't give up. They have to keep taking out layer after layer after layer. You said, if I have to, I don't want to, but if I have, you didn't say I won't, I don't want to. Well, I guess you kind of paraphrasing, you did. I'll bomb you into the Stone Age. All your power plants, your bridges, your desalination, everything. So, that if you're looking, the war between Gog and Magog, or the Armageddon, beginning of Armageddon war, is supposed to start in the Middle East, as per Albert Pike Morals and Dogma, and conflagrate out between the Muslim countries and the Judeo-Christian countries, the Jewish countries and the Christian countries. Then that would be the side. Well, that's not what's happening, because Iran was hitting other Arabic Islamic countries. They, shot stuff at Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, so many countries, so they're not supposed to be hitting the other Muslim countries. So it looks like it's the same thing unless you're paying attention. Everybody's saying, where's the arrests? Well, we had, they saying the arrest. These people are going to be arrested. Trump's talking about Obama and Biden and all this stuff. Well, Biden's no longer around, but you'll arrest the clone or the cyborg or whichever part of the one that was playing him you want, for people to see something, a figurehead executed. But you got to get the low-hanging fruit. So that has now been done. Comey said he was, I don't know if it's happened yet, but a warrant is out for his arrest. He's been indicted and charged with charges of threatening the life of the president, which can amount up to 2 charges, amount up to 10 years per charge, 20 years in prison. So, and that's just the beginning, because he's also guilty of treason. They'll find in the, ongoing charges will pursue. And I'm sure we're going to see Brennan and Schumer and all of the crowd, the Clintons and all of the crowd that were in on the Obamagate. So back to you, Eden.
Well, these are really exciting times. It's funny. I had a client last night who was like, "Oh, I want to see this arrest. Nothing's happening." I'm like, "Girl, under the surface, there's a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of stuff is coming to the surface now, which is it for me." Okay, I want to ask you 2 questions. So I want to go over your near-death experience really quick, and if there's anything that I have incorrect, tell me. So you had
Well, let me interrupt you first, because for your friend.
Yes.
What did she think was going on when hundreds of movie stars had boots on their ankles, and then the next day the boots on the other ankle? What, they broke the foot, it healed overnight, they broke the other one?
Yeah.
Come on. And people in government too, and all these people are walking around, they're on house arrest. And Trudeau had one, and all kinds of people all over the world. What do you think that is? What, everybody's become accident prone?
Good point. Excellent.
So go ahead.
Okay, so you had your martial arts injury. You dislocated both knees. Your fiance at the time was putting some warm clothing on your knees to potentially help out. That's when you zonked out. Let's put it for you were dead for essentially 30 minutes. The one part I want your words on, that you had this mission from God to come back and do what you're doing right now. So if you weren't going to do this mission, you were going to be erased. What what is that? And why
Well,
would that be?
let me explain first so people understand because it's like he died because he dislocated his knees. No,
Yeah.
the day before, during the time I was stationed in Hawaii at that
Mhm.
last tour, and even my previous tours, the Samoans would hunt round ice, what they call howleys.
Mhm.
And so I was in Kapiolani Park and got assaulted by a guy that was
Ah.
350 to 400
Oh,
pounds of solid muscle,
jeez.
about 6'8" to 7'2" in there. I don't know. I was
Whoa.
too busy defending myself.
Yeah.
So I did a flying scissor kick to take him to the ground, scissor catch and flip. And he's so heavy that he dislocated my knee when I landed. And then he flipped and it popped the other knee. So once I
Mhm.
got knocked him out and stuffed him head first into a trash can, crawled over, stuffed him in the trash can, I crawled over to my car and opened the door and got up and reset my knees using the car door and a few things. And
Mhm.
so the knees weren't completely healed up the next day. But
Mhm.
the next day, my student came back from Japan, same guy that was on, I mentioned before, that we, did the codice by my instructor's gravesite um, with a ninja sword, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And so, in the process of showing him what's called a double pass, you're in a deep senkoku dashi, and you come down one side and switch to the other side. Well, your front leg that's out in front switches to the opposite leg, and you're in a deep, deep stance. Like you see the samurais with the sword out in front of them. Their one leg's 90 degrees in front, and the other one's straight out behind them. So, as this was up on Tantalus Drive above Honolulu, and way up in the bamboo forest. And my right leg was on a slight hill. So as I came down the left side, started switch stance to go to the right side, my right leg started, because it wasn't completely healed, to dislocate again. So I stopped in halfway and the sword's coming down full speed. So I cut open my knee, the
Yeah.
skin above my patella, my kneecap. And so that's how later on, I took off, stories. I took off my shirt and held it shut and had him bind it and all that stuff with the hilt lashings on the sword. And later on, I was down watching the closing, went home and watched the closing of the Olympics ceremonies of that time. When the Soviet Union had just disbanded, I wanted to see the symbology and stuff, what they're going to show about that in the
Okay.
Olympics, because I was sure they would. And my knee was throbbing. And my fiance said, "How come you got a big, huge Korean comforter? It's, 85 degrees in here wrapped around your legs." Because I'm just laying in a shorts, but, watching the thing in a tank top, but at the same time, my leg is throbbing.
Oh
And
man.
so I said, it's helping my leg not hurt so much. So, meanwhile, she went and got a big armful of laundry from the dryer and came and dropped it on my leg, and it hit not straight in. It glanced a massive weight down the side of that leg that was bandaged. And so I had been controlling the bleeding with my mentality. You learn how to do that in martial arts in
Yeah.
advanced training. You can control your bleeding, your heart rate, etc., your pulse, all kinds. Your pupil dilation, your sweating, all kinds of things. So I had been controlling it all that time.
Mhm.
When I got home, cleaned it out, washed it, bandaged it up. I thought, okay, I'll be fine. But then when that sudden pain just shot, I mean, it was massive. It was worse than actually for me than when I cut it with a sword, because when
Mhm.
I'm doing martial arts, your chi is so high, you really don't notice pain at all. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, ah, and I jumped up. She goes, what? And I go, you ripped the bandages off on one side, and it's ripped the cut open, and it's longer than it was originally. She
Mhm.
goes, well, you had it bandaged. I thought it'd be okay. And I know you didn't mean it, and then blood started shooting all over the carpet. And
Oh
I'm like,
no.
yeah. So, shag carpet, so I'm like, So I grab something and kind of wrap it really quick, before it gets too bad. You can cut out a little piece or something, or put the furniture over the top of it or something,
Yeah.
And so I jump on one leg, hop into the bathroom to try to clean it up, get control of it. But because I had let my mind go,
Mm.
Now I'm focused on the pain and the bleeding and blood's everywhere. And I'm trying to clean it and blood, my whole leg's soaking red and blood is all over the floor. And I'm going into shock and I'm seeing stars and I'm throwing up and I've got diarrhea.
Oh
Ah,
no, everywhere.
everything's everywhere. Like,
Yes.
ah. So this isn't going to happen. So I just grabbed a big towel and tie it up around above my knee and another below the knee and wrap it with a big towel and take up some medical tape and wrap it around a whole bunch of times and hop out on one leg. And I tell my student, go get your truck. Because the townhouse that I had at that time, the townhouse area up in Mililani, you can't park in there. That's only for people, residents. So you have to park. It's over a mile away. So he takes off running to go get his truck. It's a mile away, though.
Oh my
So in the
gosh.
meantime, as he goes out the door, I'm seeing stars and it's getting worse and worse. And I start to wobble. And she said that all of a sudden I went stiff
Hmm.
like a tree and I went over backwards and bounced off the floor 3 times. So boom, 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 like a tree coming down, bam,
Yeah.
bam. And she ran over. My pupils were completely dilated
Hmm.
and I wasn't breathing. She checked to see if I, with some glass, she had a little thing you put in your makeup on to see if I have breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, mirror. And I wasn't breathing. And then she checked for pulse and I didn't. So I taught her CPR. And so she started CPR and looking at the stove, which had a clock. That's how she knew exactly how long I was gone.
Hmm.
So that's how I left. And then when I left, it was bizarre. Uh, it's the first time. I mean, I've left and come back before, but
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the first time I remember the in between time.
Mm.
Being in the body and in the body instead of in the body and out of the body. And I'm like, whoa.
Hmm.
So that's how the experience happened. And then, I was looking down on the Milky Way. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, what just happened? And everything everywhere answered me in my own voice.
Yeah. Oh, neat.
Yeah, you just died. Oh, well, if that wasn't strange enough to be looking down on the Milky Way, then you're going, everything everywhere is answering in my own voice. I don't understand. And I realize, of course, if everything everywhere, that's God. And it's making me feel comfortable in a voice I would
Oh,
recognize, right? My own.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And I hold up, I feel corporeal. I don't understand. So I hold up my hand and I just see light of
Oh.
like a light body. That's it. I see my soul glowing,
Mm.
glowing. I'm light. I'm like, oh, huh. And by this time, while I'm looking at that, stars are flying by. And then I look back and the Milky Way is way back there and Andromeda's coming in. I'm like, so, that's when I went through the ascension. And, I asked God, what's happening? You're in the process of ascension. You're ascending. Oh, well, I didn't know what that was at that time. I, was raised totally atheist, and I was just from my epiphany studying all that stuff and studying the Satanism. And so, if there's satanic stuff, there's the other stuff, and
Yeah.
so I was reading many, many different things. There's the Bhagavad Gita, the Book of the Dead, the Bible, had all kinds of
Love it.
things to read. So
Yeah.
I was studying, and I hadn't got to that part yet. So that's the basis of what happened. And then, I thought, God, I said, so what is ascension? And God explained it to me. And then I just said, so, seems like an incredible honor. you know,
Yeah.
I really don't think I'm that incredible.
No, you're saying I'm just an average guy.
I'm just kind of a regular dude. I'm not like Jesus Christ or somebody or Buddha or any of this stuff. I'm so amazing. Like, and he said, no, you've done enough.
You're good
And I
enough.
said, enough? I thought you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Essentially, I hadn't said that to people here before, but that's what I thought. To ascend, you have to have gotten everything done.
Hmm.
Says no, almost nobody, but my son does everything. You know, and so he didn't say my son. He said except for Christ.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, what did I miss? It was like everything ever written went by. I was like, that's impossible for me to ascend. I am a pathetic person.
Oh,
I'm way worse than I thought.
oh no.
Yeah. He said, no, you're about average. Well, that doesn't make me feel good either. So yeah, it was a very humbling experience.
I could only imagine. All right. So what was that if you didn't stick with this, that you would be erased? Tell me about
Okay,
that.
yeah. So going back to that, finally at one point, there was one item that went by. You see all the things you didn't do. I said, what did I miss? You showed me everything. And so you see why you missed it and what it would have taken for you to do that,
Mm-hmm.
to get it done. And so there was one item I said to me, I don't see how you can enlighten if you have never done that. You said, well, not everybody does. In fact, it's not normal that people do. And I said, well, for me, that's extremely important. He said, well, you could do it. And when you see it, I seen it requires you to be in body, in corporeality. I said, yeah, but from what you were explaining to me about this ascension stuff, I'm not going to be corporeal again.
Mm-hmm.
But you said I can do this, but I would have to be corporeal, but I'm not going to be corporeal. So exactly how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
Said you could go back to your last life. Okay. It's not that simple because it's
Okay.
not that simple. Just okay. I haven't said it exactly that way, but that's pretty much what he said. Okay. And I said, okay, I want to go back then. He said, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're going back to? Yeah, I know all the satanic stuff and all this. I've been studying 2 years. He goes, no, way more than that.
Yes.
It's way more prolific than what you think. It's not just on Earth. It's spread out all over the place, and you're going back to ground zero, the war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the war between the Satanists and their fallen angels and your good angels and that. And he goes, no, the war for all time, the end of the false evil darkness, permanently. It will start on Earth, on that Earth right there. And I go, where you came from? I'm like, on the timeline you came from. I'm like, okay. Okay, so ground zero, what? I'm used to nuclear weaponry, right? From being in nuclear submarines. They're
Yeah.
going to nuke the Earth and blow it to pieces or blow it up or nuke it out, or could be any of those. Yeah,
Yeah.
could happen. It all depends on if humanity steps up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I still want to go back. So I said, well, it's very rare that somebody is gone as long as you and is allowed to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just you just okay, I want to go back. Okay, here you go. I said, okay, so what does it require? So he explained what it required, and I said, all right, I do that. And so that went through all that, and then I started, and he said, now the last thing before you agree to this in absoluteness, realize because of the nature of you going back, those that come back are in a certain unique situation,
Mm-hmm.
which means that if you sell your soul or lose your soul,
Okay.
you don't just die and that's it for you. Because of the propensity of the fact that you came back, that will be erased. And all that you are, therefore, will be erased
Understood.
from forever. What? Yes, from all time, everywhere you exist, every other planet you're on, anything else, anything, any other whatever, you're gone. There is no more you. No one will remember you. No one will have ever heard of you. No, your parents will have never had you. None of that stuff. Oh, so think about it. So I thought about it for quite a while. Kind of just everything came to a stop, and galaxies and stuff were flying by. It's all stopped. And I'm just kind of looking out in the stars and the galaxies. And, I got to do this.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So that was the nature of that.
Wow. Wow. All right. And so here you are. And it was interesting that time this was 1992. This happened. And I'm just going to bring this up too. You had studied like the cabal became in your vision in the 90s or in 1990. And I remember you on one interview also talked about I got some of my martial friends to also look at things, and we couldn't disprove that any of this was not happening. Like it was just continued to be in your face, and your knowledge just continued to be increased. And then the near death experience in 92. Okay, real quick, because I know we're on time. I wanted to bring this up to you. The Epstein files that they've been
Mhm.
just, trickled out. This last trickle, I heard you say that this last drop has awakened was it 3 billion people or 3 million?
3 billion.
That is amazing.
And most of those people are between 9 and 21,
Yes.
because that's the people that are mostly affected by
Ooh.
him to the worst, in the worst way.
Okay.
So they're very concerned. So they are going online and looking at the files. And, I've seen frazzledrip. I can't look at them anymore. I looked at some and I heard some testimonies and some things, and I can't listen to it. I couldn't sleep for 3 days after frazzledrip.
Okay.
And it still gives me, you can't unsee things like that, and you can't
Yeah.
unhear it. So, I don't go there. It's just too traumatic for my spirit and my soul. I
Okay.
can't do that. The evilness of it is off the chart. I mean, people that say pure evil doesn't exist, they don't know that
They
it
don't,
does.
right.
And so I was just, these kids are looking at that. I mean, they're kids, they're 9 to 14.
Ooh.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue about that stuff. And I
Right.
wasn't a happy child, but I certainly didn't have that
Yeah.
staring me in the face,
So
So I was like,
So,
and
gee, I want to go to 9 years old, looking at the Epstein files. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Knowing that 9 years old right now, they get pornography. I mean, Frazzle Drip, they are exposed to things that we weren't exposed to, but
yeah,
they're also investigating. They're also getting together with their friends and
yeah,
looking at things.
yeah,
That is so
yeah.
great.
In fact, on John Michael Chambers, he does certain series of shows and things. And on one of them, this guy was talking with him. He said that his daughter, who was a sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
was at school, and they were talking about it. And this one boy in the class, before the class started, and the teacher came in, this one boy in the back goes, "Oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. That's all ridiculous." And all of the kids, over 30 kids, turned around and go, "Shut up! You don't know anything."
Oh,
So you're
way.
talking, a classroom full of kids, and everybody in there but one kid knew. They go, "You need to go look if you don't know." And shut up, you know? How dare you? And they were all over that kid. He was probably in tears almost by the time they got done with him. So you can imagine, I mean, a sophomore in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
when I was a sophomore, I was very, very innocent, so to speak.
Times have changed. Okay, I will just summarize this that we are at a period of time just listening to Gene and me even seeing the things that we're seeing. It is, I mean, just like you said, we are heading towards it. There's no stopping us now. We are at it's challenging time. Don't get me wrong, but it is just the movement is just great.
It
And
is.
with that, I did want to ask you this, Gene. So for me right now too, in this period of shift where I feel like so much of my old programming is finally leaving, let's put it that way. Yet it is so dramatic because these are deep things. These are family things, things that really aren't mine, but they are mine. And there's a whole other eating scenario I haven't told you about. But in the middle of it, and parts of it, like I compare this right now to some of the hardest times I've had in my life. Yet it's also joyous at the same time. And so I'll be down and then suddenly I'll be up the next day and feeling really good about it. Are are a lot of people like me right now? Because I consider myself a light worker, a healer. I'm really working towards the ascension. Yet I also have clients that are going through it on a certain level right now. What advice would you give to people at this moment?
Become a warrior.
Yes,
Be, um,
love that.
the warrior is true warrior for any martial artist is within. They call it the warrior within. And so many people are going to face dark nights of the soul. pretty much with the ascension event, everybody will face a dark night of the soul. Many are facing it now. It's causing health problems. It's causing all kinds of things, with the jab and all that. There's serious things going on.
Yeah.
People are leaving. People are going through incredible health challenges and all kinds of things. So the human being created by God, the infinite being, is an infinite being as well. Infinite doesn't create limited, because it's like you get cherries and you're going to create an apple pie. You're not going to make an apple pie with cherries. You're going to make a cherry pie, which I love cherry pie too, but so as an infinite being, that's what the medbeds do. They heal you from the etheric level, the quantum level. So humans can actually heal themselves at that way. We were originally capable of such things. That's why Christ said what he said about, mustard seed, and compared to him, we will do much more. And that's not we may or we might, that's we will. That's an absolute. Therefore, that is true. And like Carlos Castaneda said, we were capable before a predator came up to Earth of feats of consciousness we can't even conceive of. So just like the medbeds can regrow a leg, can reverse ages, so like Christ could do those things, so can we. You could touch somebody, or you could, for yourself, people could regrow legs, could regress their age, could do all kinds of things. So the ability to do that was mind controlled out of us. Because like Carlos said in the books, the trick they did is they gave us their mind. And the mind of a predator is morose and morbid and power oriented. And so when you're power oriented, but you're not in charge, the only other option is you're a slave. And so now that we're getting our sovereignty, as people will find out, especially when the Strawman and all that money is released and all that, they're going to go, what do I do with myself?
Oh, man.
And we get all these robots and all this other stuff and AI and all this other. What do we do with ourselves? You become the warrior. That's who you become. You refine yourself. You stop the internal dialogue all the time. For most people, if you ask them what they thought about yesterday, 90,000 some thoughts, they're not going to have a clue. The average person thinks 90,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
I can tell you, because I'm who I am now, probably 400 or 500 thoughts a day.
Yeah. That's great.
About before I was this, or if I'm out on a trip and I'm out glamping or, hiking or something, I'm not in an hour, I'm not thinking more than 3 or 4 thoughts. If I'm alone or I'm hiking with my wife and our dogs, 3 or 4 thoughts, that's about it. And I'm doing my Tai Chi. Unless, I'm in the city. If I'm out in nature and I'm doing Tai Chi, I'm not thinking anything.
Yeah.
I'm focused on the form. So it's like in Peaceful Warrior, where Nick Nolte, who is playing the guy that was the guru kind of guy, and he said, take all of that thoughts of what you will happen if you win the medal, the gold medal, and all this, and cut it all away and let that all go. Imagine how good you would be if you were about what you were doing 100%. Not all, what's going to happen if I win the gold, or does if I don't, and all this, and you're not there. You're not living your life. You're in what might happen, what may happen, what did happen. I wish this shoulda, coulda, woulda, all this stuff. You're not living your life. And the moment you're in is wants only. It's the only thing that's limited in creation, the moment you're in. So take time every day to meditate quietly. No thoughts at all. You might be able to get 5 seconds the first time or two. So I first started trying to do this way back, like 3 seconds ago. Okay, I'm being quiet now. Okay, let's be quiet. Okay, we're going to be quiet. We're not going to think. Okay, we're not thinking. It's like,
Well, and that's what I encourage people too. There are all these guided meditations. I'm like, I feel the hardest and the best, if you want to put that way, is just quiet, being with yourself, really working on limiting those thoughts. And yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's so funny, Jean. I wore my spiritual warrior shirt for 2 days in a row because of like, I'm just going to wear this right now. So it's so funny that you brought that up. And I wanted to let you know this too. So I'm in the process of learning to get nutrition from light versus food.
Yes. Yes.
So I went 4 days without food and water, and some of my initiates went 5 to 8. My facilitator did 10. So I also feel like this, when you talk about the power that we have, breaking free of slavery. And one of the things I want to break through from is food and water because it can be done. So to tag that on to you in terms of you talking about how powerful we are, and we're in this moment of ascension where so much is possible. And this people have done this chronic living for a while, yet for me, when I heard about it, I'm like, that is the way of the new earth. That I've got I've got to do that and be that as well. To close, is there anything else that you would like to add to anything that you've said? Which all of it's been really great. I
Yeah.
appreciate I
So,
appreciate it.
people will ask, well, then if you're meditating, how do you get quiet?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the
Yes.
voice of God. So at the physical level, it
Yes.
sounds like rain on a roof, or like the old picture tee on a TV that shh. It's just that. And as you go into the astral, it'll sound like bees. And in the causal, it'll sound like the big, huge didgeridoo or conch shell when it's being blown. And then as you get into the mental level, it'll sound like woodwind instruments and flutes and things. And then at the soul level, it's symphonies. Like the first time I
Oh,
went to soul level, you're beyond the mental, so you don't have your memory. So I'm lit up there and I'm like, it's so beautiful. And I'm just like, oh, sound is incredible. You can think because you're at the mental level, like it's so beautiful, but your memories are actually emotionally tied. So they're not really with you there. And I go, it's like this, da 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 da. And I'm like, get back. How's Beethoven's fifth? Like
oh,
that's where he got that from. So
wow.
you can listen to that and focus on your breathing. And if you can, it does help the first until you're good at it. You want to eventually get so you can meditate in a garbage heap,
Yeah,
know,
anywhere.
and
Right.
anywhere.
Yeah.
But first in nature, maybe with some sound of water running, like beside a brook or stream or a waterfall, and focus. And a good meditation is to just open your eyes and your nose and your ears and your skin. Feel, sense everything. Keep your eyes as open as wide. Don't move your head. Just stare and feel everything. And
Mm.
don't label. Don't think about it. Don't say, "Oh, that's trees green and that's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful stream." And just hear it, smell it, feel it, and be merged with it. And now I do where I'll walk in the park and I'll walk up. I have my favorite trees like Michael and Debbie and Perseus, and I'll walk up and put my hands on the tree and close my eyes, and it immediately straightens my spine and my whole body comes into
Oh.
alignment, and I can feel the tree and I can feel it communicating through its roots to all the other trees through the
Mm-hmm.
psyllium, the
Mm-hmm.
fungus that connects them all. And so, that's another one. You can reach into a tree and just
Yeah.
close your eyes and just feel it and send your heart and your spirit into the tree. And you will be amazed. You'll hear and feel the tree. And so, and you get lost in it. You won't be thinking. And that's, getting rid of the ego. It's silencing the ego. There's a good ego and there's a bad ego. The good ego will obey and be quiet and witness the beauty of creation. The bad ego is like, well, I can't believe she did that. I can't believe he said that.
Yeah.
All this judgment stuff, right? So I would say to do that, get one with God as often, forgive everybody,
Oh, yeah, that's a biggie.
even the people that you feel you were
Yep.
completely right, you were doing the right
Yep.
thing. They're lying and they're doing this and that and
I've
this.
done
Not
that.
only forgive them, bless them.
And love the situation. Be grateful for it.
Yeah, because you learned a lot. Go through and figure out what you learned from it. That was
Mm-hmm.
something you chose. The hard
Yes.
stuff you chose.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you choose it? What did it teach you? So it's, learning from that and going on. And, once you do that and you let it go, you will be amazed at the lightness it gives your spirit. And of course, learning how to sun gaze and become a breatharian, that's very,
Oh,
very, very, very powerful. And, the first time I did it, I didn't follow the directions. I was getting that little essence from the pineal every day. 3 times a day. And she's the lady that taught me has been a breatharian for 17 years. And she said, do it once a day. And I had about 20 pounds overweight. I said, oh, I can lose 20 pounds. I was in Sri
Oh,
Lanka.
yeah.
I was in Sri Lanka and got food poisoning. So, well, I got a month. So, yeah, I might as well do this. And so got back and after the month and weighed myself, I gained 20 more pounds.
Oh my God. Wait, who
I'm
was
like,
your
oh my
teacher?
gosh, I'm a potty.
Wait, who was your teacher?
uh, I can't remember her name now. It's a her, I can tell you that. She looked a lot like you.
Okay, I was because I know there's one well-known woman who talked
Yeah.
about, surviving on light, and I can't remember her name, but I was wondering if that's
Hmm.
okay. So yeah, you're very familiar with this too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right now. I tell people it's not for the weak because this is it is definitely a process. Like for me, 57 years of eating and suddenly reprogramming all of that. But it is very exciting. Jean, thank you so much for telling everything that you've told today. It was such a pleasure just to listen to it as well. And again, I just thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Eden.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
Hang with me just for a moment. Y'all stay tuned for next week. Oh my gosh. And to really be I'm gonna leave us all. Just be joyous. I mean, there are parts of it that are challenging right now, but it is happening, and you are here with it happening. You're so lucky.
Yeah. We're here for the greatest time in creation. This creation and all the other ones before it have ever seen.
What a beautiful encapsulation. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Jean, so yummy, right? Would you like to keep this engagement going? Well, there's a way you can do that on YouTube specifically. When this is live, within 48 hours after it being live, Jean and I will be there to answer questions, to comment. So please engage. Also, like and subscribe, put ratings on Spotify, anything you can do to proliferate this information out to the masses, this new earth frequency, all of that. Please, again, that word, engage.